Hey everyone, welcome to the HireMyVA Team and Business Building Podcast, where we help you to reclaim your freedom through hiring and thriving with virtual assistants without breaking the bank, without breaking your bank. And I'm Dave Broughton. I'm here with my partner and great friend, Larry Broughton. And you may be wondering why I'm laughing.
Why are you laughing, David? Because we're dorks. We're dorks.
One of the
We're dorks.
episodes I was thinking as I was about that breaking the bank. Remember I said breaking the brink?
Right. Well, yes. Slash between brain and bank. Yes. But David, it's good to see you. Thank you for being in my life. I love you, my brother. And let's get on this.
Oh, right.
What's going on today?
Yeah. So we've got a really good one. So the question here for the day is, for the podcast is, how do you pay your VA for their trial work?
Oh, for the trial work, once we've kind of gone through the interview process and we've got a handful of candidates and we're kind of really like, okay, this is the final task. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, it's kind of like, you whittle it down to some candidates and you really want to do more of an in-depth trial, because as part of our process, we want you tell them to do some kind of like a 3 or 4 or 5 minute thing, right? But now you've got, a couple of them and you're like, well, I'm not exactly sure, right? So you want to give them some kind of a detailed task, right?
Right.
So how do you pay them for doing that?
Yeah. Well, I think that there's a couple ways to do this, but it all depends on what kind of task you're actually giving them. You're doing it with one person or two people. There are some folks out there, Dave, who don't, they say it's part of the interview process and they don't pay the candidates to do this. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like it because I feel like you're going to get some benefit out of it. Right. And so I do think we need to pay them for it. And even if you pay them at a little bit more of a premium than you would for their hourly rate that you would normally charge them, but you have to have some sense on how big of a project is it. What you don't want to do is you don't want to give them a research project that's going to take them a week to do, right? And you're going to get huge value out of it. That's just immoral, right? But I think it's a short project that you would do. And I'm a little bit cautious about saying how to do this, with the exception of saying you've got to have some kind of idea. Tell them, hey, I expect it's going to take X number of hours or minutes to do this. And that's what you're going to pay them. I'm not a big fan of paying people up front. Fully upfront for something like this. I know people that do. What I would prefer you do is you give them, you say, I'm going to pay you 50% now, what I expect it to be. And upon successful completion of this, I'm going to pay you the other part. What has to come into play here, Dave, is this whole trust thing, right?
Right.
This is what we need to talk about more and more. The sooner we can get to a level of trust with our VA, the more effective and productive the experience is going to be. And this is one of those things. I had a guy years ago at a former company of mine, and when he was brought on board, he used to. This is when I was living in San Francisco. During the first meeting, he was hired as a senior executive in the organization. And one of the things that I found out that he did, and it's very savvy actually, every time he went to go meet with someone, and when he was meeting all the new managers in the company, he would say, "Hey, I walked out of the house today without any money. You have $1 that I can borrow from you to tip the valet guy."
Okay.
And he paid you back the very next day. He made a point to come back the very next day and pay you that $1 back. Why did he do that, Dave?
See how much he's gonna trust? Yeah.
Exactly. It's a quick way to build trust, right? Pretty savvy, right? And it kind of became a laughing joke once people started talking about this, but you get the point, I hope, is that this process can lead to a trust building exercise, as well as you finding out how effective are they in doing this. So how do you pay them? I don't know, Dave. What are your thoughts on? I do know, but what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think I think that's great. 50% up front. You definitely want to pay them up front. Now, you might be thinking in the back of your mind.
Pay them something up front, you mean?
Yeah, it's got to be something. 50%. I wouldn't recommend like 25%. It's got to be at least 50%, right? Because I mean, these folks have had employers or potential employers say, "Hey, do this for me, and then I'm going to pay you when you're done," and then they skip out. So you gotta start looking at it from their perspective as well as
Sure.
yours. So
Sure.
meeting in the middle, 50% sounds pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And chances are you've gone through this vetting process where you've gotten down to like the one or two or three of them, right? And
Yes.
you've followed our program, and you know that these folks are, they want the job, and they're good at it, and they should have a decent and pretty high level of integrity, right? That's how we teach, right? So they're not gonna. Then the chances are they're not gonna just like take the money and run. But if they do, all right, it's a small price to pay for finding out up front you don't want to have that person on your team, right?
That's right. That's right.
It's a small price to pay because we're not talking about thousands of dollars. We're talking about, tens or $50 or something like that, right?
Right. Particularly with these folks that are overseas, you're right. If they're making $7 an hour or $4 an hour or $5 an hour, you're not going to be asking them to do a 20-hour project for this, right? And so it is kind of a small investment. I think that's a really good point, Dave. Better to know upfront than later on once you hire them. But also this asking them to do the job, and then talking through the whole payment process. You're going to learn a lot about each other just going through this process with each other, right? The asking them to do the project is actually part of the vetting. There may be people who say, I'm not going to do that. Well, then you don't really want the job.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it really does come down to you're starting to establish the trust by doing things the right way here. And, and then we talk about how, well, we usually recommend a particular service to pay people for this once they are on your team. But for now, the easiest way is to do it through just PayPal, friends and family, and they'll get the money. Right.
Yeah. So there's really two things. How do you pay someone? I guess that they're asking here is, how do I actually get the money to them? That's the PayPal side. And then how do you actually charge or not charge? How do you, how do you go ahead.
Yeah. How do you actually set up the test or set up the project, and how much do you pay up front?
Yeah, there you go. Right. So I would suggest keep it a smaller project so you can just test their ability. How well do they follow instructions? How efficient are they? How much guidance do you need to get them? You should have some sense of how long it's going to take to do this small project. You come up with a number and you say, hey, we're going to pay you 50% up front. I'm going to pay you 50% when you're done. And I'm a big believer, Dave, do this, give at least two people the same exact task.
Oh yeah, it's got to be the same.
So you're comparing apples to apples. Don't give one person a research task and someone else a graphic task or whatever. Give them the same task, right? And see what comes out better, and more efficient and communicates most effectively. And
and give them the same task. Give them the same task and say, "Go." You're on the clock, basically, right?
Yeah. Right.
You want to know how long it's going to take them as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's a good question. You have any other thoughts, Larry?
No, I think it's really good. I just encourage you to go to the community. This is my thing over and over again. Ask these questions to the community, get some feedback from folks that are going through the process with you on this. But just make sure that you communicate as the potential employer or contractor what it is that you're actually looking for in this.
Yeah.
Set people up for success. Okay. Don't make this I got you. We have seen that before, right? Don't make this just try not to set them up for success and not for failure.
Yeah. And there's one thing that just occurred to me.
What's that?
When you're doing this, you give them something that they would normally be doing in your business.
Of course. Yes.
I've had some people say, well, they're going to have to go in and, like, from a web perspective, they just have to, I broke a site for them and they have to go in and figure it out. Well, I mean, you can do that and that's okay. But the problem with that is that happens so rarely in your business. that you're asking them to do something that rarely is going to occur, right? And so you should do something that's more something that happens on a more normal basis.
That
right?
sounds like an I gotcha thing. It's like asking a graphic
Yeah.
designer, name the 12 cranial nerves, you know?
Yeah. So, all right. Well, all right. That sounds good. All right.
Yeah.
So everybody, we're going to close this one down, and thank you for being with us today. Remember, building a team is the way to reclaim your freedom, and we're here to help you. 3 things we'd love for you to do right now, and we'd really appreciate it. Number 1, subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already done so. Number 2, give us a rating, preferably 5-star. And then number 3, go to HireMyVA.com for more information on our course and community, because remember, even without experience, you'll learn how to prepare for hire and thrive with virtual assistants. Larry and I are helping folks as we speak. We've helped a lot. We want to help you to get your freedom back. So just go to HireMyVA.com for more information.
Yeah, folks, and do yourself a favor, do the world a favor. Go do something significant today. All right. God bless you. God hold you. God keep you. All right, my friends, go get them.
All right. Bye, everybody.
See you later. Bye.